Oh my god, did I just start a YouTube video with a classic sigh? Like, honestly, this is one of the videos where I sit down and I make it and my heart is kind of racing. Trying to smell this perfume. Oh my gosh. I remember this stuff was discontinued like 5 years ago now, and I just have a bottle to keep to smell because I feel like honestly this scent centers my brain, and I feel like sometimes it just makes me feel calmer. You guys, incredibly weird, bizarre, extraordinary things have been happening all of October. Actually, a little bit before October. This is actually my second time trying to get all of this out. In order to tell you guys about the stuff that's going on now, I feel like I have to tell you guys my thoughts of why maybe this paranormal energy has been kicked up around me, and like why the things that are happening are currently happening, and then sort of where all of that gets placed into my general life timeline. If you guys have been here since day one on my channel, you know that I used to talk about paranormal stuff all the time. I told you guys stories from my childhood, and I was still really heavily into ghost hunting at the time. I was going to haunted places, and even before I started YouTube, I feel like I was even like way deeper into it. I feel like there's so much of my life that I've just kind of never even talked about. But pretty much before I started YouTube, I actually had like a little paranormal investigative team, I guess you could say. Like, I met this other girl on Twitter, and we were both really big fans of a lot of the ghost shows that were on TV. We would meet up all the time, and we would go to these really interesting haunted train tracks in Houston. And there's this one place I really wish I could remember where it is. It's a long way away from where I live, but it was one of the most creepy and fascinating and calming places I've ever been. It's like a forgotten graveyard, and it's a really little, it's almost like in the middle of like a woods or a clearing. Maybe I'll go back there one day, going out doing the gigs. Do you know what I mean? I was doing like EVPs, and I had like these cameras, and I had the ghost box, which I used to make videos with, and I'm like honestly kind of intimidated about talking about this kind of stuff in our house. I meant to go out and film this video elsewhere, but by the time I got yesterday's insane video hiccup fixed, it was like way too dark to go out and do like a tea vlog or anything, and I don't know. I get two feelings when I talk about stuff like this. Like, one side of me feels better a lot of the times because I feel like if I open up and share these things with you guys, like sometimes I feel like it's getting the attention that it wants, and then other times I just get nervous to talk about it, trying to like buckle it in because I've been tweeting about it a little bit. Fair enough, like when I bring it up, you guys are obviously going to be curious about it. I feel like so much of this activity has just been in my life literally since day one, since my very most prehistoric memories. One video that I keep kind of putting off making because I mostly don't want to upset any of you guys' past life experience, because I definitely do feel like I have one, and some of the details are clear, and some things about me have never made complete sense to me based on my own personal experiences from 1985 onward. But if you guys watched like my childhood paranormal stories, you know that pretty much like from some of my first like cognitive memories, it was about stuff about dead people and ghosts, and like my parents were not just sitting there being like blah, 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 like telling me all this weird stuff when I'm like 3 years old. I did get really sick when I was about 3, and I feel like that kind of like the limbo between life and death that I was in that situation, like maybe tapped into some stuff further. Sometimes I get stumped with trying to describe these cycles of my life or these experiences. Some of you guys refer to it as being empathic. Sometimes there's just so much like robust feeling, and it's just a visceral feeling about stuff that I get. It's not like so clear to me that I'm like, oh, there's Fred over yonder, he had a railroad accident. Like, I can't tell specific details like that, and I don't feel like I can communicate directly, like as if I'm having a conversation like I would have with you guys. It's just like strong emotional feelings. There have been a couple periods of my life where I just want to turn it off, and I want to pretend like it's not happening, and I don't want to do any paranormal stuff, and I don't want to talk about it, and I don't want to think about it, and I literally just try and shut it out of my life. But I feel like there are consequences to that. When I behave that way, it's almost as if I'm like dissing a friend or something, if that makes any sense. It's like sometimes I feel like people and entities just like to make their presences known. I do feel like when I deny this portion of my soul or my psyche, whatever is the best way to describe it, I feel like I am the least amount of myself, if that makes any sense. Like, I feel like there's been two major periods of my life that I have really just tried to shun all of this stuff and to not just let myself be myself and have whatever experiences I'm gonna have. But I do feel like it's those portions of time, puberty and second puberty, that I have tried my damnedest to no avail to just shut it out, block it, block it, block it, block it, block it. And I feel like those are some of the most unhappiest periods of my life. I feel like high school was just, I feel like high school is mostly kind of a weird time for everybody emotionally. Like, you got a lot of stuff changing and a lot of stuff coming at you really fast. And I feel like for me personally, the past couple of years have been a little bit on the rough side for various reasons that we shan't entertain today. These past couple of months, I've opened myself up more again to these types of energies and experiences, and I feel like overall these past couple of months I've been getting into a much better place mentally. We'll touch on this again in just a minute. I feel like I should just tell you guys like kind of what I've been doing and what's been going on a little bit behind the scenes. Before we just went to Disney World, we went to Savannah, Georgia for a couple of days, and I pretty much went there specifically to film I hope it's gonna come out during the month of October, Halloween special, and I visited tons of these really, really haunted houses. Like, Savannah is arguably the most haunted city in the United States, and I know everybody like wants to duke it out for that title. Tourism is great when you've got a lot of dead people hanging around. Savannah is definitely a city that I have had many amazing paranormal experiences in. We went to these like haunted houses. I of course went to like Moon River Brewing Company. I've done several videos on that place. I love it there. Also went to a different graveyard for the first time, and then I went back to the DAR cemetery, or Colonial Park cemetery, that I filmed a Friday the 13th special in about 6 years ago. The other cemetery I went to was Laurel Grove North. I keep wanting to say Laurel Canyon. That's Jim Morrison. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, it has been years since I have been in a graveyard. Once again, I've been trying to shut it out, block it out. This next bit, you're either gonna think I'm absolutely crazy or you're gonna get it. I feel like people that kind of like have these experiences themselves or are more open-minded about it, they get it. And then I feel like other people look at this kind of stuff on the surface and they just think I'm crazy. And if you think I'm crazy, that is totally your right. That's totally your opinion. I know what I experience. I know what I know how I feel, and I don't care if people think I'm crazy. Moving on. Now we're jumping back in time again, because if you guys remember the beginning of my channel, I took y'all to this graveyard in Galveston. It's like the oldest one, I think, in Galveston, but I used to hang out there at least 4 days a week. I just always felt a calling there, and I feel like right before I started my YouTube channel was kind of another one of the most darkest periods of my life. Like, I had recently just been in a very bad car accident. I was in and out of the hospital constantly. I was in a lot of pain, a lot of the time struggling to make friends in college, and I was struggling in college on a whole to decide what my major was and what I wanted to do with my life, and it was a very tumultuous time for me. And I just had a calling to go to that graveyard, and I would hang out there because, this is the crazy part, I literally was drawn to particular tombstones there constantly. I literally had a feeling as if I was hanging out with friends. When I would go to these certain areas of the graveyard, I would feel the presence of almost like particular people, like this type of man. I don't know any other way to describe it except for to say that I felt like I was literally there with people who were giving me comfort and solace, like as if you were with a friend. And I've never talked about this ever in my life, and I feel like it's kind of a bittersweet thing. I remember one of the times that I was in the hospital, like post this wreck, and I'm sorry I'm tearing up. Sometimes this kind of stuff just moves me. That's what I'm saying. It just like, it almost impacts me on a level that I can't even put my finger on. And I'm the same way, especially with like EVPs, anything vocal. Anytime I would record them myself, anytime I see like ghost TV shows where they're playing EVPs, like it just strikes something in my soul, and it's like it's like a reflex, like my eyes just start welling up with tears. I was in the hospital one day after I was in that wreck, and after I'd kind of been hanging out at the graveyard. I was literally in such pain that I thought I was gonna die, and I had been having all these tests, and like literally no one could put their finger on what was causing this pain exactly. I was laying there like just freaking out in absolute pain, and it's like I was, and I know this is gonna sound dark, but I was just thinking like, God, what do I have to live for? This is gonna sound so up, okay? I know. It's like I had a feeling like I got when I was hanging out at that particular graveyard, and it, at that point in time, like gave me a will to live just so that I could continue to go back to that graveyard and like hang out with all my friends that were there. I do think on them fondly. Like I haven't been there in years, and I kind of feel guilty about that. But I also have reasons for why I don't go to that particular graveyard anymore, and that's a whole other story, which I've already told. I feel like that's my scariest paranormal story. I do feel like guilty for that, because a lot of these historical graveyards, the markers and the people there are so long ago past that really like their next couple of generations have also already passed, or like maybe don't live around here. Like you'll go to a lot of these older historical graveyards and things will be just a little bit off, like a little bit unkempt, like some things will be overgrown, they look like they're forgotten. And so in a way I feel like maybe they enjoyed having me around so much because I was visiting and talking to them and just giving them company. I've got to switch my battery again. You guys, this is one of the things that is going on right now. It's like I have 3 batteries that I have been making sure are constantly charged, like to roll with VLOGOWEEN every day. And I will sit down and just film like a couple little clips, and then the battery will be drained. It's literally so many crazy things. So fast forward to present day. We went to Laurel Grove North, and I had never been to that graveyard before. One of the portions that we wanted to talk about in the Savannah Paranormal video was Victorian gravestone symbols and what the different symbols mean and what the different symbols might mean about that specific person. And so we were just wandering around all over because supposedly that particular graveyard is a great one to find many references, if not all references, of these symbols. So once again, it's Victorian era. Literally, we were the only people there. You guys know that in the past couple of months, like I've kind of just been trying to like come into my own again, you know? Like I feel like I've been doing better, but still struggling sometimes. And overall, just in the past year, like just feeling like very discouraged and kind of just wanting to like give up a lot of the times. Very similar to the period of time in my life before I started my YouTube channel entirely, like just feeling very like directionless and discouraged. We were walking around this graveyard, and for the first time in a long time, I began to feel that feeling again. And once again, it's not voices, it's not like seeing specific people, it's just like a feeling that I absorb into my soul. This is just a feeling on a different level. It's not a tangible, like human, I don't want to say not human, but it's not a tangible love. It's not a type of love that you can embrace or hold or kiss or any kind of like familial love. It almost felt like if I was in a room full of people that were just love bombing me. It was just such a feeling of warmth, and I feel like I kind of just woke up and snapped out of it. It's almost being hit by like some sort of like beam of enlightenment. Sounds like way more pretentious than what I'm trying to say. I just sort of began like realizing things and walking through this graveyard and thinking about all these people who had all these lives, and it's almost like it's not really like a flashback, but I'm really trying to put words to these feelings and to these emotions. It felt like I had like a room full of faceless cheerleaders, or maybe I got like the suggestion of faces in my mind. It's really hard to communicate. I can't say that enough. Something almost at that point woke up inside of me again, and I feel like ever since that day I've just been on a completely different path, and I feel like it's sort of reflected in me. Like I feel like you guys can kind of see it because I've seen a lot of comments about it. It's almost like a YouTube comment section, right? Because when you are open to this sort of communication, it allows everything to come in, right? And actually my comment section is a great analogy for this, because I feel like for the most part the experiences are extremely loving and positive and warm, and I feel like this is sort of the reason why sometimes I try and shut myself off from this entirely, is because sometimes these emotions are extremely intense, and when you're already like trying to live your life and do everything else that you've got to do during the day, like sometimes it's really disruptive to like all of a sudden have some sort of experience and just like really feel like an intense wave of emotion. And it's not like mood swings, it's just like, and I feel like I'm kind of this way with living people as well. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes. Sometimes I'll be out in like Target, for example. Like it literally happened to me yesterday. I was in Target and I walked past this random girl, and it's like I just knew something was going on with her, and I don't know what the specific is, but it's just almost like I can feel pain and sadness, or I can feel extreme joy as well. But it doesn't happen constantly, but it's just like sometimes when I have those experiences, and particularly if they're negative or sad, it can really like throw me off for at least like a couple of hours. When you open yourself up to it, you open yourself up to it, and you are gonna get tons of positive, loving experiences, and then there's gonna be those ones, and you know the ones I'm talking about. And sometimes it's not even like mean. Like I feel like sometimes that's why like when I'm trying to make comparisons, I'm like, oh, it's a good comparison up to this point, and then I'm like, wait, that's dog crap. That's not a good analogy at all. Erase the whiteboard, jump over somewhere else. As I was in that cemetery and I was having all of these like positive, the only way I can express it is like a pep talk to my soul. I was walking around and I saw this gorgeous Victorian era statue, and I really wanted to film it for you guys. It was a statue, and it was like in a little kind of like many Victorian monuments, like they will be fenced off with like a iron, almost like partition. Lots of times there will be like a bench inside. because in the Victorian era, it was common all the time. Like, people had picnics in graveyards. They hung out there all the time. They would fly kites. It was like a place, like, that's why a lot of times when you go to a Victorian historical graveyard, they are so architecturally established. They were places that people went to spend a lot of time in. I wanted to walk into this little area, show you guys this bit of architecture, and it was like suddenly I was hit. I don't know if you guys have ever been like shocked by electricity before, but like it's just it's like a don't, like, no, it just feels like a big no. That was the feeling that I felt. But it wasn't a feeling of anger. It was just like I felt like I was feeling like some residual energy that was tied into that complete situation, which I know the specifics a little bit, but I don't really feel comfortable with sharing them, so forgive me. I'm not intentionally withholding to you guys to be vague. I just feel like I shouldn't talk about this specifically. But I did just feel like intense sadness. And so sometimes I do feel a little conflicted because it is like a YouTube comment section and you've got like 80% of the people like cheering you on and being like, yeah, that's great. Like, we're so happy you're here, da 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 da. And then you've maybe got like the other amount of people that's like, I hope you go die in a ditch. We had this experience and I kind of had like a no bad experience. A little bit. I didn't really think anything of it, and overall I left that cemetery with a renewed sense of life and purpose, which maybe doesn't make any sense to most people, but I'm just telling you guys how I felt. Then we went on to Disney, and I feel like this is maybe where some of the weirdness started. I feel like all of my life I have been surrounded by good and then a little bit mischievous. Most of the time I feel very, is guarded a good way to put it? Like, I feel like most of the people who are dead that talk to me send me feelings like it's a happiness that they can kind of like somewhat make their presence be known. I'm not like some super special person. Like, I believe a lot of people have these skills, and I do believe a lot of people try and shut it out and turn it off, and I completely understand why. But I do feel like sometimes, and it's almost like the best way maybe I can put it into like easier to understand analogy would be like almost like a little pesky brother kind of thing. A bunch of stupid stuff going on at once that just becomes like really exhausting, but not like harmful, not like hurtful, but like, why? Went to Disney, and I feel like that's where it sort of started, because every night that I'm at Disney, like most of the time I'm a dreamer, and I can mostly like remember my dreams, and most of the time I have vivid dreams, but they're either pleasant, like just completely pleasant, or what I like to refer to as adventure nightmares that I genuinely enjoy. Like, sometimes I genuinely enjoy having a nightmare because it's like a very exhilarating, exciting experience that I wouldn't live out in my own life or have happen in my own life. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure that you get to like wake up from and then everything's okay. But I very rarely have graphic or disturbing dreams or anything that I would want to avoid sleep, because I've been having them. And particularly at Disney, I always have like very fanciful, colorful, wonderful dreams. I feel like it's because all day you're just seeing this magical, imaginative stuff, and everybody's in a good mood, and you're eating all this delicious food, and then you get home and you're so tired and you're ready to go to sleep at the hotel, and like everything's great. And so I feel like I always have very vivid dreams at Disney, but they're always very good dreams. But this time, I kid you not, we were there for I think 9 days, and it was really bad nightmares every night. Like, very, I'll just say like true crime kind of stuff that was like very graphic, that I don't want to get into detail of, obviously. That went on like the whole time that I was there, and I got home, we finally got back to our own bed, and the nightmares stopped. But basically, like, right when we got back, we hit the ground running with VLOGOWEEN, because I've got a couple things like pre-filmed, but definitely not enough, and definitely not enough that I need to keep going with everything all month. I've got these like grandiose plans that I want to do with you guys this month. It has just been a consistent struggle. I'm not gonna lie, like VLOGOWEEN is always a little bit of a struggle. I know it might look like a 20-minute like run around Target or whatever, but I'm actually like filming there for like 5 hours. It's just like very fast paced, and there's normally at least like 1 or 2 hiccups that I have every month where just something doesn't work right or whatever. Pulling all-nighters almost every night, or like I feel like I'm always just skirting by on the skin of my teeth, like to get everything up at the same time every single day. Life is messy, right? Like you're gonna have challenges that come up all the time, and you just have to kind of like deal with them head on, take care of them, move on, whatever. But this is just madness, okay? So a couple of my grand plans that I just mentioned to you guys is VLOGOWEEN room and VLOGOWEEN car. And so VLOGOWEEN room, we filmed the Amazon unboxing video in. My parents' house is fine. Like I was there filming for hours and hours and hours that day. Everything was fine. Nothing was going on. So the next day we were supposed to start painting the room orange. I came back from Walmart with the paint, literally get over in the morning. And they were like, well, hey, guess what? And by the way, like a couple years ago, this house like got flooded, like a pipe burst. And so pretty much they redid the entire house at that point. So pretty much like every fixture and all the plumbing and everything is like basically brand new, like a couple years old. I don't 100% know how to describe this to you, but basically something in the ceiling had this crazy like leak. I think it was like a pipe with the AC. Basically, to make a long, boring, technical story short, like there's a portion of the ceiling of that room all of a sudden got a big leak, and there was like basically buckets of water rushing out of the ceiling. And so now, of course, like we're gonna have to have all that like repaired and fixed and patched up, and anything that's wrong with the AC fixed and patched up. But it's just like odd that everything is 100% hunky-dory, and it's like just in that specific room that I'm planning on using, there's like water rushing from the ceiling, and obviously it's just put everything basically like at least a week behind to like start painting and start decorating and everything else. I'm like, October, it's only 4 weeks long. Big craziness number 2 is I bought that orange Jeep specifically to do VLOGOWEEN with you guys in. I miss like gold vlog car a lot. I feel like we used to like decorate that car in vlogs together, and it was just sort of like a swamp family thing. I just want to make my content obviously like more interesting for you guys and kind of like bigger and better than ever. And I just thought that that would be like a perfect little side project that we could have fun with throughout the month of October. In August, I got that car. Only like, you know, and I really haven't been driving it all that much. I didn't drive it too much in August because I was kind of like waiting to mostly like savor the experience with you guys in October. I had driven it just like a handful of times and everything seemed okay. And I didn't drive it much in September because I was gone basically for half of the month. I got back and I had been driving it a couple of times, and I noticed that it was doing really bizarre, not okay things for a basically like 1.5-month-old car. I would like go somewhere in it, I would run an errand, and everything would be fine. And then I would get out of the car, I would come back in, and like half of the stuff or more wouldn't be working. Mostly like all the electrical stuff, like the windows wouldn't roll down, the radio wouldn't turn on, the air conditioner wouldn't work, the phone would like charge and then not charge. And it was like really just like sporadic and random and weird. And so now Vlog Jeep is in the shop. It's just like crazy. It's just like all these like hurdles that I feel like keep coming up every single day. Despite it all, like I was still like like just chugging along, right? So I get up the second day of October, and I was, you know, I've been like waking up a lot earlier than I normally do, and I woke up and I was so dizzy. Like, there's only been a couple times in my life that I've been this dizzy. Like, I basically like couldn't stand up. And so I lost like more than half of a day because I just had to basically lay there until I felt better. And so that was really weird. Then the next day, Dogman had a horrible toothache. I think he got like a little chip in his tooth or something. We're still kind of getting that taken care of. And so there was all of that. There's just been a slew of like weird technical stuff going on. Like I said, like a lot of it just seems like electrical, like it'll be with cameras, computers, like Wi-Fi. I'm not sure if that counts as electrical, but it's just like camera batteries keep dying all the time. Like my computer, which has been perfectly fine, like just keeps shutting off and going black. And it'll be like in the middle of me editing a video or making a thumbnail, like something that I'm on a time crunch to get done. Little like playful, goofy, also like exhausting stuff that I've been battling every day. Yesterday, it's actually kind of like 2 days ago now, the night before I got that Avatar video up, it was such a stretch for me to edit that video. Like I was physically beyond exhausted, but I don't want to like disappoint myself. I don't want to disappoint you guys. Like I cannot fail. On day 4, I was just like, put your game face on, drink some caffeine, like muscle through this. Literally, when I made the determination to not fail and to muscle through this, the freaking like smoke, fire, carbon monoxide beep 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 alarm started going off insanely loud. And only the one that's in our bedroom. Like we've got them all over the house. Every other thing was fine. It was just that one. So Dogman gets on a ladder. He's trying to fix the battery. We're trying everything. We put new batteries in. It will not shut up. And I'm sitting there like, oh, like trying to grind out and edit, and this freaking alarm just keeps beep, 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 beep. And then finally, randomly, it just stopped. What is that? I don't know. Muscle through and churned out that Avatar video. And then as many of you guys know, I'm sure, there was like all of these bizarre audio glitches. Like nothing I've ever dealt with in my life before. Like normally I can just see like where the video starts to glitch or not match up, vocal to visual, and like just edit it or take that little clip out or whatever. But like it was 3.5 hours just trying to figure out how to fix that video yesterday, and like Frankensteining files together and like finalizing it a little bit here and a little bit there. I mean, it was just like exhausting, absolutely exhausting, especially when I'm like trying to churn out like the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day. Like it's hard to get like bogged down with like yesterday's work on the next day because I have to be doing tomorrow's work. I'm sure you guys can see like how I just feel like I said, like life is just gonna always throw you curveballs, and normally like, yeah, you just deal with like 1 or 2 like annoying things, whatever. But this has just been like a lot of majorly annoying, crazy stuff to deal with in 4 days. So if I seem a little drained today, I'm sorry. There's a lot going on. I don't feel bad about it. I just, once again, I feel like it's a little like pesky. I feel like when I'm more open like this, I am more fully myself. But I feel like this with anything else, there's like good and bad to all of it. And I know this is a really long video, but I just wanted to tell you guys like what's going on and everything else. So hopefully you guys found this little update interesting. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this stuff down below. Are you somebody that has experiences like this? Do you experience periods yourself where you feel like things are kind of like really dormant and then more active? Sometimes when I tell these personal stories, like people are disappointed because I always say most of the time things are not like they are portrayed in the movies. Like you don't just see like things spinning around. I mean, it definitely does happen. I'm not discounting those experiences, but I find that at least in my life, like my paranormal experiences are things that are much more felt than seen, and they're not like super crazy like that. like poltergeist activity or something. It's not really like that. I feel like some people are like, it's not even creepy, but I'm like, well, like if you're living it yourself and sometimes you feel these kinds of emotions that I feel, like sometimes when I'm in like my room with antiques and stuff, like sometimes I will get a feeling like I need to like run out of that room, and I know how crazy that sounds because then I'll go in the next day and everything will be fine, and most of the time I'm in there all the time hanging out, doing my work, filming, whatever, but it'll just be like sometimes I feel like I gotta get out, and it's almost like a cyclical thing. Like I feel like sometimes stuff will be very dormant, and then sometimes like for whatever reason I feel like it gets like kicked up again, and that's just my personal experience, but everybody is different. So, and some people don't believe in this stuff at all, and if you don't believe, then that is fine. I feel like it takes all different kinds of folks, you know, to make the world go round. Not everybody has to believe in the same things, and that's okay. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today and for watching, for spending time with me, and I love you guys so much, and I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.